Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be talking about Justice League Dark Apokolips War. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent. We're going to be talking about the last DC animated movie that forms the DC animated movie universe. I know that's kind of confusing, but I will explain. This is Justice League Dark Apokolips War. This came out today, May 5th, 2020, and I have watched it, and here's my review. So, if you didn't know, DC Warner Brothers has been doing these animated movies for over 10 years now. I think going on 15. The first one that they produced was Superman Doomsday way back in 2007, I believe. And then as of 2014, they kind of reset a whole bunch of stuff. Or 2013, they did an adaptation of the Flashpoint storyline called Justice League Flashpoint Paradox. And from that movie, they followed the same storyline from there where Flash reset the universe. Except there was no universe like cohesively before then. It was just a bunch of, one-off movies that stood on their own. This time they decided that they were going to do a universe that worked together and interconnected. So after Flashpoint Paradox, you had the movie called Justice League War, and that was the kickoff of the DCAU, so to speak, the animated universe. And you had people like Jason O'Mara providing the voice of Batman cohesively across the connected movies. You have Jerry O'Connell doing the voice of Superman across the animated movies. You have Christopher Gorham doing the voice of Flash cohesively across the animated movies. So, the most notably is Rosario Dawson doing the voice of Wonder Woman across all these movies. So you have all these actors doing their voices over and over and over and over again. And at first, I didn't really like Jason O'Mara as Batman, but I kind of grew to like him. I don't think he did a very bad job overall. I think you're so used to Bruce Timm, and until that point, they were using Bruce Timm a lot in their Batman features. And some guys they would, bring in for one-offs or two-offs, and you really wouldn't get a good impression of them, whether they were good or bad. Like, I remember Jeremy Sisto did the voice of Batman in the New Frontier animated movie, and you're going, Jeremy Sisto, that guy hasn't been acting in a long time, and you're right. And, I didn't even know him that well, but his Batman, he was on New Frontier for all of 2 seconds. So, anyway, so they've been doing these movies. So you had Justice League War, then you had a bunch of Batman movies that all tie in together. Batman versus Robin is one of them. Batman and Son is where they introduced Damian Wayne to this universe. The two Superman movies are Death Superman and Reign of the Superman that came out last year are part of this universe. You have Throne of Atlantis, which is a really good movie. Brings in Aquaman in here, and Shazam is part of the Justice League and the War movie since they saved the Aquaman storyline for Throne of Atlantis. They introduce Aquaman and then have him take over Atlantis as well. It's a really good movie. You should check it out. Wonder Woman has one movie in this universe called Bloodlines, which came out last year in 2019. So you have all these movies in this universe, and they all kind of run together. Batman in this Apokolips movie is in the Hush costume that he put on at the end of the last Batman movie, which was Batman Hush. So everything kind of ties together. So in between some of these movies, you had things like The Killing Joke, Gotham by Gaslight, Superman Red Son, one-off movies that stood by themselves. But everything else was part of this animated universe. And this is Apokolips War is their climax. You also had Teen Titans movies in here. The first Justice League Dark movie, which is the first movie that they had that was rated R. And I think they called this movie Justice League Dark for that reason, is because the first Justice League Dark, which is a terrible name for a team, I hate it, was rated R, and therefore if they did a sequel to that, it could also be rated R, and they could do more things in this movie that they wanted to that make this feel like an epic climax to this universe. And they do that. If you've ever want to see wanted to see your favorite DC heroes get maimed in animation, this is the movie for you. Because you see the movie opens up with them explaining why they need to go against Darkseid and what's happening. And then they cut to 2 years ago, and then through some flashbacks you find out what happened to each individual hero and see them get maimed. Kind of, it's very, very strange. The interesting thing about this movie is that it does not follow the Darkseid War comics that Jeff Johns wrote, as I kind of was thinking it would, which is a nice change of pace. It's basically a totally original story where Apokolips, Justice League goes to take on Apokolips because they see the Apokolips planet coming into the solar system, and they feel that Darkseid's going to launch an attack, so they're trying to do a preemptive strike. Unfortunately, Darkseid sees through this, and then they fail. So you're basically starting the movie really from the lowest point of all these heroes as they rise up to try and take on Darkseid a second time after he kicked their butt a first time. So that's kind of a very interesting take instead of just showing the entire battle for them losing. And that allows you to introduce other characters we don't normally see in a Justice League movie that more fall in line with Justice League Dark. So you have Superman coming to John Constantine with Raven, and John Constantine is on a bender with Etrigan the Demon, who's drunk. So there's 3 magic characters plus Superman, which is kind of what Justice League Dark was. The first animated movie, it was all these magic characters plus Batman. So it's kind of the same formula here. Except Superman is the main character that the audience knows if they don't know any of the other DC characters in this movie. So here Superman is powered down. He's almost pretty much powerless. Somehow Darkseid injected liquid kryptonite into him, and it takes away his powers, but he's still alive. So he's basically human, and he's so stressed out. He's got gray hair, except for the top of his head. His eyes glow green. He looks very sickly, even though he's still kind of like buff. I would expect him to be like shrunken down as well if he's not exercising. But anyway, he's searching with Raven to Constantine to find someone else so that they can try and take the fight to Darkseid. And they do. Damian Wayne joins the team. He has a little thing with Raven, which they were developing in the 2 Teen Titans movies that they had. And it's just really cool to see all these different characters from the different franchises, so to speak, get drawn in. I think everybody gets seen. You see Hawkman, you see Martian Manhunter, all of the Teen Titans from those movies are here, Nightwing, Star Sapphire, Mera is here, Aquaman, the Green Lanterns are here. Everybody is available for maiming, basically, and twisting and abusing, and there's a bunch of stuff that happens to your heroes that you normally wouldn't see in an animated movie. And I was going to say made for kids, but since this is R, it's not really made for kids. It is aimed at adult fans like you and me. So it has that going for it. I like this movie. I don't think it was their best outing. And I think the ending does fall a little flat because there's no real... There is a conclusion per se, but they kind of try to launch it off again to tell you that, the stories will keep going, and then that kind of falters a little bit the way I think that they did it. It's not as cool an ending as Flashpoint Paradox or anything like that, where you see a glimmer of hope or, know what's coming after this one. So, but I do think if you've watched any or all of the movies that it's worth watching, I think you could watch Justice League War and then watch Justice League Dark together and have a nice, 2 little, movie. And this is really the sequel to that movie because it deals with Apokolips and everybody else. So I think you could watch those 2 together and have a really cool little double feature. Another thing about this movie is that it's longer. It's 90 minutes long, or 91, whereas most of the other movies were typically 70 minutes to 80 minutes. So this movie, they've expanded out the budget for, the animation time. It's 90 minutes long. I felt the animation was really good this time around. It felt really vibrant and colorful compared to some of the other ones I've seen. So maybe they got more budget to put into the animation. There was certainly a lot more going on because people were getting maimed and you saw body parts flying around and stuff like that. So a lot more detail in the animation. So it really felt like Warner Brothers stepped up their game with this iteration to really make it like a big statement, an end point in the series. And I think that this movie definitely benefited from the extra time, the extra attention, the extra animation. You know, it certainly isn't quite like the Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge that came out a month ago or a couple weeks ago. It's not that gory, but the animation's not that good either. Like, that's still a little bit better than what's here. But this movie is still better than the last DC animated movie we had. Bloodlines and Red Sun had both kind of the same kind of blah animation, I think, to some extent. Whereas this one, it felt like there was more effort put forward. And I think it definitely benefits from that. So the voice cast is strong. You know, I named them off a lot before. You have Tony Todd playing Darkseid from Candyman, if you know him. And, you know, he's very threatening here. You have Trigon come in. So it's definitely a hodgepodge of different ideas that they've introduced in the movie series that they use to wrap up this story, instead of adapting a particular story that and then forcing that to fit their movie series. So it's like, you know, they looked at the tapestry of all the movies they had done and said, what can we use to wrap this up? Well, we're definitely using Darkseid, and we want this to be a banger, so we're using Justice League Dark in the title because it gives us an R rating, and then, you know, pick and choose little bits from here and there to make it a cohesive story. And I think they accomplished that. So I like this movie. I would definitely recommend it. I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 stars. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments if you've watched any of these movies, or if you're going to go watch them now. Let me know if we should do a rewatch. I'm really kind of thinking of starting at Flashpoint, Justice League War, and doing just the connected movies in a row, and then going back and rewatching Apokolips War just to see what it was. Because I don't think I've rewatched all of them. I've rewatched some of them. I don't think I've rewatched all of them together at all, the way that, you know, like the Marvel Universe is rewatched over and over again. So let me know what you guys think down below. And like, comment, share, subscribe. All that stuff helps the channel get seen, helps you see my videos when they pop up. Hit that bell, all that nonsense that other YouTubers tell you to do. Do it down below, because BK's Bullets is your channel. Anyways, thanks you guys, and we will see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.